repealed the MPAA, did change it to a PG. But still, watching it now and rewatching it last night was kind of like, there's still some pretty intense stuff in it. The scene where the parapsychologists are in the house and the guy says, "Oh, I'm gonna go get something to eat." With
the steak, yeah, just that alone.
Just that alone
is super body horror.
Yeah, it's very David Cronenberg. Which, talking about that scene, because it's one of the famous scenes in the film.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't forget it.
Yeah. It's funny because it starts off with him emptying a Cheetos bag, but the way he like kind of puts the Cheetos bag in frame, where it says Cheetos, like right, like no one holds a bag like that to dump out like the last couple of Cheetos.
Product placement.
Yeah, it's crazy product placement. But then he gets up and he tells the other guy, "Hey, I'm gonna go get something to eat." But he goes into the kitchen and he takes out like a full steak from the refrigerator. Like, was he going to cook that steak at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, because he gets out a skillet to fry it up. I'm just like, wow, this guy.
He's like moving in.
Yeah, watching it again, I had forgotten that setup, and I was just like, wow, that's pretty shameless. You're a guest in somebody's house and you're not going to ask? Anybody?
Like, I can understand, like, oh, you want some Cheez-Its or, like, some potato chips or something? That's one thing. But he, like, full-on grabs a steak. He's, like, going to cook up that steak. So there's that setup of he takes the steak out. He just, like, kind of tosses it on the counter, which gross.
He smells it?
Yeah. Touching it with his bare hands, tosses it on the counter, grabs some chicken, and is eating the chicken. And then the steak kind of does this slide, almost like a worm, across the counter, and he's looking at it, and all of a sudden, like, the steak kind of blossoms like a flower, basically. Like, kind of stuff is coming out of the steak, and it's like maggots and gross shit. It looks really nasty. Mm-hmm. And then he gets freaked out, and he
spits out his chicken.
Spits out the chicken, and he sees the chicken has maggots crawling all over it, and he goes into the bathroom and throws up. Or it wasn't necessarily a bathroom, it was almost like a work sink or something.
Yeah, it looks like
a garage, only it's not really the garage.
Yeah, it has a big, if you see like the coloring and like the wallpaper and everything, it does look like some kind of workshop sink.
Yeah, it's like a janitor's closet is what it looks like. So he throws up, and then after he throws up, he lifts his head up, and he's seeing himself in the mirror, and he looks really bad, and he kind of starts putting his hands to his cheeks, and then you can see his fingers disappearing underneath the skin, and then he's just basically peeling his whole face off. It's really gross.
Yeah, and it keeps going and going until there's like you can see like his skull.
Yeah, you can see the skeleton underneath. It's awful. That scene alone, like you're right, that scene alone can give it an R. And I know that this was post Raiders of the Lost Ark, where at the end, the guys melt and explode and everything, but still, like seeing someone pull their face off to the fact where it's just an exposed skeleton is pretty intense. Especially,
I feel like with that scene really catches you off guard, right? Because everything is pretty, not mellow, but it has a certain, tone to it, and that just like takes you away, even though it's just a dream sequence.
Yeah.
It's very, very effective.
Yeah. So he's really freaked out, and then he runs out, and then just as all this is happening is when there's activity from the upstairs room, and you see like all these lights kind of coming down the stairs.
Or orbs, right?
Yeah.
Like giant orbs.
Yeah, the shit that's always on Ghost Adventures that are like, these are ghosts! And it's just like some random like floating little wisp going by. But yeah, they're like the orbs. We didn't talk about after Caroline gets kidnapped, her room that room with her and Robbie that they shared is kind of like the hub of all the paranormal activity that's in the house. And even when the psychologists come over, they go up to see the room, and Steve tells them that they keep it locked. But when they open it up, like it's like chaos inside the room. There's like shit just like floating around and flying past the camera, and the beds are like spinning.
There's like a record that comes by, and it's like one of those like compasses.
Yeah, there's a compass.
Like playing the tunes in their face.
It's really crazy, and then that's where the door kind of opens up and the ghosts come down, and then they run the tape back like in slow mo, and they can see figures, wispy figures of people that are actually walking down the stairs. And they talk about them being, there's so many of them, they're so lost because they don't know that they're dead. They didn't go into the light. There's another great scene when Carol Ann is still gone, where JoBeth Williams goes up to the door and is trying to talk to her, and then she opens the door and there's like just this ungodly roar that comes out of the room, and she shuts the door really quick, and she's really, really frightened by that. And that always creeped me out, because it's like, what's going on in that room where there's just that roar? Because it doesn't sound almost fun like it is when they first get there and they open the door, and like all the stuff is just kind of flying around. You can kind of hear like laughter and everything, like they're having a good time playing around. But later on, when she opens that door trying to talk to Carol Ann, there's just like this roar, this unsettling sound that comes out of the room. But when the scientific team leaves, they say they will be coming back, they will be bringing help. And the help that they bring is the medium. That's, played by Zelda Rubinstein pretty famously. I think that's probably one of her biggest roles. Which
is interesting, because if you really think about it, she doesn't come in.
She comes in very late.
Very late, and then after that one encounter, she's done.
Yeah. I know she is in the second one.
Yeah, she comes back.
She does come back in the second one, but yeah, she's only in Poltergeist for maybe less than 10 minutes.
I love when Diane is like, Diane's like, oh, I'll go, and they're gonna go after Caroline, and she's like, no, you've never done this before, I'm gonna go, and she's like, well, you haven't either, and she's like, you're right, you go.
Exactly, yeah. There's some real funny bits in the movie, especially, at a time where there shouldn't be some humor.
Yeah.
But that part, yeah, I remember seeing that last night and thinking that's a really good line, because they're going to go into the closet. They found out that there's almost like a portal in the ceiling. Mm-hmm. The closet is the entrance, and then the ceiling is the exit of this portal, this wormhole into the other world, whatever it is. So they're going to go into the closet to save Carol Ann. And yeah, and Tangina is the one who is meant to do it. But Diane tells her she won't come to you, she'll come to me because I'm her mother. She's the one, she's calling for me, so I'm going to be the one that does it. And then there's that funny exchange. Which, the sequence where they go into the room and open up the closet, like all the lights and everything, is awesome. Just like the lighting and the cinematography in that scene is so awesome. As we let the ambulance pass by. And then Diane goes into the light in the closet, disappears. The two parapsychologists are downstairs waiting to pull her out with Carol Ann. But she's going to go in. Steve is going to hold the rope on that side, and she says, don't let go, and he says, I won't. And then she goes in, and Tangina says, step into the light. She's kind of welcoming all the ghosts. Step into the light, move over, pass on. And Steve says, no, you can't do that. You said that was bad. He's afraid that if they go into the light, they're going to die too. Mm-hmm. Or they're going to take Diane and Carol Ann with them. So he says no, and then as he's kind of losing his nerve, there's this big creepy face or skull that kind of pops out of the closet and just roars at him, and he ends up dropping the rope. And then luckily, they're able to pull Diane and Carol Ann out on the other end, the portal that's in the middle of the living room. but they come out safe and sound. They're covered in what looks like, some kind of protoplasm or something, and manage to get them into the bathroom and revive them. And then that kind of ends the second act. And then, as I said, Tangina is the one that comes out and is almost like pleased with herself. She has like a big smile, like a big shitting grin on her face, and proclaims the house to be clean. Diane and Carol Ann have been saved. The house is clean. Evil has been vanquished. The end. Even though there's still 20 minutes left in the movie, some other shit is gonna happen.
I like that little dialogue between Diane and the daughter, where she's like, she's got this little gray, like, rogue thing going on. Diane does, because since she came back, had the encounter.
Yeah.
And the daughter's like, are you going to do anything about this?
And that's what she's doing in the climax. When she goes in the bathtub, she's going to dye her hair.
And she goes, well, you don't like it? Doesn't it, like... It's like, doesn't it look a little punk or something? Like, I never remembered her saying that, but it's pretty rad.
And there's a real funny bit that Dominique Dunn has as well, when she says, Diane tells her, they're leaving the house tonight. And Diane tells Dana, who's going out on a date, have Steve, I think that was the boyfriend's name, Steve, drop you off at the hotel or the Holiday Inn on whatever road. And then Dana kind of looks off. She's like, oh, yeah, I remember that place. And then Diane's like, what? What'd you say? And she's like, oh, nothing. And then she takes off. And it's just like the look on her face and the implication that she's been there before. And Diane kind of freaking out about that. And then there's a good little exchange between Diane and Steve where you can tell that these people really love each other. And they're making plans. They're going to leave. They mentioned that Carol Ann doesn't remember any of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Diane feels rejuvenated, even though she kind of feels a little hungover. But she says, oh, yeah, I feel great. And everything. And then Steve says, I need to go to the office and make a few last-minute things. And she says, well, what did Mr. Teague say about that? Or, what are you going to tell Mr. Teague? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go to hell. Tell him to go to hell. And, oh, what if he doesn't like that? Oh, I'm going to give him directions. And then they, say their I love yous, and Steve goes off, and then Diane goes back in the house with the kids, and that's what starts the climax, which we're starting to talk about. So after she gets kind of thrown up on the ceiling, all the stuff is happening in the kids' room. Here's what I wanted to ask you about, knowing your history with clowns. What about the clown doll, man? Tell us your thoughts on the clown doll. Because it's the creepiest fucking doll.
Yeah, like, why does he have that in the first place? Or where did you get it? Why don't you just throw it away? Yeah, that's one of my earliest experiences, probably why I don't like clowns, seeing this film. And and they build up to it. He has trouble. What's the son's name again?
Robbie,
right. He has obviously issues with nightmares, right? Or seeing like shadows and stuff in his room, the way that most kids do.
Yeah.
And this clown is just always staring at him while he's trying to go to bed. So he'll go over every night and like toss some kind of jacket over it, so he can sleep in peace. And then during the climax, they think everything is okay, and he tries to, this clown is still there, just staring at him at the foot of his bed in this chair, and he tries to throw his jacket, and he misses this time. And then he tries to, go to sleep or pass out, and then he gets up for some reason, and he turns around and realizes that the clown is now missing. And he kind of looks up everywhere in the room to see, where it's at, and he doesn't know, or he can't see it. And then he gets ultimately dragged under
the clown is right behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the clown starts strangling him. And then, it drags him underneath the bed. Which, it's just... it's already a creepy thing, and it coming to life becomes even scarier.